So we find ourselves now counting the days of SEFIRAT HAOMER. We count 49 days in between Passover, when God took us out of Egypt from slavery, until we stood at Mount Sinai and we received the Torah. During the first 33 of those 49 days, many of us have a custom wherein we observe signs of mourning. We don't listen to music, we don't shave, so you see a lot of scruffy-looking men walking around in dire need of a shaver. And the reason for that is that we're commemorating certain tragic events that befell the Jewish people during those 33 days. Chief among those events was the death, the horrifying death, of thousands of students of the great sage Rabbi Akiva. And we're told that the reason that those students died was that they didn't accord respect or honor to each other. Very, very difficult to understand. You're talking about the students of the great sage and luminary Rabbi Akiva. Extraordinary people. And they were dissing each other. They were disrespecting each other. What was going on? They were sitting in the study hall. Hey, could you help me out? I'm trying to figure out this section of the Talmud. Hey, buddy, figure it out yourself. You can't really imagine that having gone on. So what happened? Let's try to explain it. Perhaps this is what happened. So in order to understand this, there's a section in the Talmud that says as follows. It says that if you have a righteous person, and he's good to God, and he's good to his fellow man, that's a good righteous person, a good tzaddik. But if you have a different righteous person, and he's good to God, but he's evil to his fellow man, that's not a good righteous person. So a famous rabbi asks the following question. He says, one second. If you have a guy who's evil to his fellow man, he's not just not a good righteous person. He's not a righteous person at all. You can't say, well, what do you mean? He's righteous to God. Okay, he's got some problems, infirmities in his relationship with fellow man. No. The Talmud says he's evil to his fellow man. If he's evil to his fellow man, he's not righteous at all. So this rabbi explains as follows. He says, here's what the Talmud's talking about. It's talking about a guy who's totally righteous. He's righteous to God. He's good to God. He's righteous and good to his fellow man, okay? How's he righteous to God? He's doing everything right. He's praying, and he's wearing his tzitzis and his tefillin, and he's got his lulav on sukkahs and his matzah on Passover. He's righteous to God, okay? And he's also righteous and good to his fellow man. He's doing everything right. He's visiting the sick. He's giving charity. He's visiting people while they're mourning. All the things. He's sensitive. All the things you'd expect from somebody who's good to his fellow man. So why is he called a tzaddik or a righteous person who's not good? Because of the following. He's taken on certain stringencies in his relationship between himself and God. And that's great. He wants to get closer and closer to God. But he hasn't taken on equal stringencies in his relationship with his fellow man. So although he's observing all the mitzvahs, all the commandments, he's much closer to God than he is to his fellow man. That creates a gap that's improper. So he's considered, although righteous, he's not a good tzaddik. He's a righteous person who's not good. Okay? I recall, and I'm embarrassed to tell over the story, and my only explanation for this is that the teenage brain, as we know, is not yet fully formed. So about 25 years ago, I was in college. I'm walking back to the library one night with my best buddy in college, who's still one of my closest friends. I'm wearing a yarmulke. He happens not to be, so I'm supposed to be setting this great example. And again, for reasons I can't explain, I decide to take the empty soda bottle from the drink that I had just finished and wind up in the middle of the street and fire it down the street, and it crashes and explodes into 1,000 pieces. It's just fantastic, okay? And my friend looks at me in horror and he says, what are you, crazy? And I say, what do you mean? Don't worry, it's late at night. There's nobody around, there are no cars, there are no people. He says, I'm not talking about safety. He says, I'm just talking about basic decency. He says, you think the people that live on the apartment buildings on either side of the street tomorrow morning want to come outside and have to walk or push strollers or drive or bike or run over the glass in the street because you decided to get your kicks throwing a bottle? That's ridiculous. And it was just one of those moments you'll never forget, because he was absolutely right. I was absolutely wrong. I was stupid. Wherever I was holding in my relationship between man and God, I certainly wasn't holding there in my relationship at that moment between man and man. And it was such a powerful moment that I will tell you, in my defense, a little bit, that since that day, 25 or so years ago, a little more, I don't think I've littered. So he sent the message, I learned from it, and at least in that aspect, I lifted up my relationship between man and man. So maybe now we can understand what was going on with the students of Rabbi Akiva. Of course they were righteous. Of course they accorded each other honor and they accorded each other respect. But what maybe was happening is in their zeal to get closer and closer to God, they kept working on that, adding on further and further, more and more stringencies. Wonderful. But they didn't add on greater stringencies in their relationship with their fellow man. So they might have been respectful to each other. They might have been civil to each other, but not with the same level of sensitivity. And that may be what doomed them, and that may be what led to that terrible sentence, to the death of thousands of those students. What a powerful take-home lesson for us. During these 49 days of SEFIRAT HAOMER, when we're counting, okay, we count up, we don't count down. We're not school children. School children, sometimes they'll have a calendar and they start Xing off the days. 20 days left to the end of school. 10 days left to the end of school. 5 days, 3 days, 1 day left and I'm out of school. You know, that excitement that it's over, okay? We do the exact opposite. We're counting up. We're not running away. We're running towards. We're getting closer and closer to God. So each day as we count, it's 1 day, it's 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, 48 days, 49 days. We're heading to the Torah. And just like our forebears, each one of those days, higher and higher and higher and higher level. But we remind ourselves, okay, that while we're doing that and we're getting closer to God, we've got to keep in mind that it's equally important, not just important, equally important to be as close with our fellow man, whether that's our spouse or our parents or our children, other family members, relatives, employer, employees, co-employees, strangers, people we meet in the street, toll keepers, anybody. Equally important. Of course, keep working on your relationship with God, but keep, at the same time, working on your relationship with your fellow man. Good luck.